Nintendo just wrapped up their September Direct today, and I absolutely loved it. However, I do think this is one of those unfortunate directs where the news we got overall was really stacked. There's some amazing stuff. This is another one where it's a little JRPG heavy, so I'm happy, but I think there was a couple other announcements that were really strong for fans of other stuff too. The problem it runs into, though, is, as it goes, the rumor cycle was really hyping up a couple specific things that may have shown up, and a lot of those didn't. In specific, there was a lot of potential hype over getting remasters and ports of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. That didn't happen. There was also, of course, once again, talk of a Metroid Prime Trilogy port getting ready for Metroid Prime 4. That didn't happen. And while I didn't see this one quite as commonly, I also did see a few people getting excited for potentially new Nintendo Switch Online platforms, specifically Game Boy, and that didn't happen. And I get it, all of those are super cool, awesome sounding things that I myself absolutely would love to have happen, but it didn't, and we really didn't have any actual hard evidence that those things were happening for sure this September either. It's just that kind of thing, right, where the rumor mill gets going, people talk about what they want to see, a lot of people start to buy in that might actually be a thing that happens, and then it kind of just repeats itself until people are convinced, oh yeah, that's absolutely going to happen this year, right? And this is a time that it didn't. And what we did get, though, was absolutely stacked, so much so that I'm actually going to wait to talk a little bit about the JRPGs, because while there is a lot of that went on during this show, we got a lot of other stuff too. First off, we did finally revisit Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, the untitled sequel, which is now the titled sequel, which is being called The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Or Tears of the Kingdom. I'm actually not 100% sure. I'm like 80% sure it's supposed to be Tears, but it might be a double entendre thing where Tears also applies, because it could be like space-time tears or something. There's been those rumors before about time travel being a thing. Look, part of this too is the fact that if you've watched Mythic Quest, there is a complete gimmick and joke about this exact same situation where tears and tears are spelled the same, and I'm actually not entirely 100% sure which one to go with just yet. I'm sure by the time this video goes live, we'll have a hard confirmation for which. But we did get a small teaser for that with the name reveal and an official release date, assuming that doesn't get pushed back, which is May 12th of next year. As part of celebrating Kirby's 30th anniversary, we got an announcement of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe coming out early next year, adding in some new content that was not present in the original and supporting up to 4-player play, which looks fantastic. Pikmin 4 got officially announced. Kind of. We got a very basic teaser that didn't actually show any real gameplay. There were some screenshots they showed that kind of illustrated the concept behind it, but ultimately all we have right now is that it is happening and it is slated for next year, so we'll see how that goes. And while we didn't get any new platforms for Nintendo Switch Online, we did get news about N64 games in particular, and it's a pretty good list. The games they talked about are slated for coming out through the rest of this year and into 2023. There was no indication if those are the only games coming out in 2023 and if maybe there's going to be more stuff after that, but it's honestly a really good list. Pilot Wings, 1080 Snowboarding, both Pokemon Stadiums, all 3 Mario parties that were on N64, and most importantly, it's actually finally happening. We are getting GoldenEye on Nintendo Switch Online, and it's supporting online multiplayer. We'll see how well the online multiplayer works, but still, hype that we're actually finally getting GoldenEye on modern platforms. Also, as it turns out, Rare has announced that not only is GoldenEye coming to Nintendo Switch Online, but also coming to Xbox Game Pass with improvements in resolution and frame rate, split-screen multiplayer, but oddly enough does not have online multiplayer, which the Nintendo Switch Online version does. There are also some various updates to games that are already out, like Splatoon 3, Mario Strikers Battle League, Switch Sports, basically just detailing some of the free updates they'll be getting, like adding new characters to Strikers with Pauline and Diddy Kong, which are some 2 good new additions. I just wish the roster and everything was more baked at launch. And Switch Sports adding golf, which was originally announced to be coming out during this fall, but has now been delayed to holiday still this year, so it's going to be before 23, but just a little later than they originally planned. JRPGs though, there was once again a lot. I don't know what exactly is going on this year, but every Nintendo Direct, at least the mainline ones, have been heavily focused on JRPG reveals, a lot of which come specifically from Square Enix, but even some of their own first-party stuff. There's a lot happening. On the Square Enix front of things, we got some updates on some games we already knew about, like Harvestella, and the Front Mission remakes that have now been pushed back and delayed a little more. The first remake is coming out later this year, while the second remake is going to be next year, and they've confirmed that while there's no timeline for it yet, Front Mission 3 is also getting the same treatment. Square Enix also had brand new games to announce, including Octopath Traveler 2, which I'm gonna be fully honest, I liked the first Octopath, but it was a little rougher on the edges. It just kind of didn't have the pacing that I was hoping for, but considering that they kind of got through that one, and I love triangle strategy, I think this is going to be a situation where they can improve and build upon it, and I'm really excited to see how that turns out. And a reveal that I can't believe actually just happened, a brand new Theatrhythm game. I absolutely love the Theatrhythm titles. These are Final Fantasy games that are rhythm games. I talked about it in my recent 3DS video where I was still buying songs for that one, and now maybe I don't have to buy as many as I was thinking of because there's a new one coming out to the Switch called Final Bar Line. Now, neither of these games are slated for this year, however, they are both slated for February of next year, which, by the way, does anyone at Square Enix sleep? I feel like the number of releases we've seen this year and how much stuff is already slated for next year, especially on the JRPG front, they have been non-stop between ports, remasters, bringing back older games, introducing new games. It's just been a lot. We also got an update on Xenoblade Chronicles 3 DLC, with Wave 2 introducing a new character named Ino. Atelier Ryza 3 is slated to come out on the Switch later this year. Tales of Symphonia is getting another remaster that is getting released on the Switch. This was a classic game back on the GameCube, so it's really cool to see it on a modern Nintendo system. And really, well, there's already a lot of other JRPG stuff. One kind of specific subsection genre that got a lot of attention is farm sims. Like I already mentioned, Square Enix showed once again Harvestella. They had updates on Story of Seasons. They announced a remaster of Rune Factory 3 for the Switch. They also announced another Rune Factory game is in development without any kind of further detail whatsoever, and showed off yet another one called Fae Farm. I'll be honest, that specific type of JRPG just isn't really my thing. I've tried them before. I've spent time with Rune Factory. Way back in the day, I tried out Harvest Moon. It's just not for me. Not my thing, it just doesn't click. But if that is your thing, there are a lot of choices coming up. It Takes Two is coming out this year on the Switch as well, which is great if you haven't had a chance to play it on other platforms. Resident Evil Village is coming to the Switch in cloud form, if that's the thing that you're excited about, I guess. Bayonetta 3 got another little update trailer showing off some of the returning characters from past games. And the latest Fatal Frame game, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, which has already been out in Japan, is officially coming to the West on the Switch as well. One of the biggest reveals today, though, and was actually the thing they hard opened with, Fire Emblem Engage. We now know for sure that the next Fire Emblem game is on its way. It is not a remake or remaster of a past game, but is another brand new entry. This is something that was rumored a lot, and it looks like a lot of those rumors proved true, with there being a focus on kind of reflecting on the series' history, bringing back some older characters in the form of spirits that are summoned in-game. The main character has a mixture of red and blue hair. And one of the things that really stood out to me from the kind of little hype reel gameplay that we saw is that how much this one's visual style actually looks a lot more in touch with older games in the series. Obviously, it is still a fancier looking brand new 3D game, but in terms of the battle map layouts, the way that the battles are depicted, it all calls back a lot more to the kind of UI and design that was used in a lot of the earlier Fire Emblems, in particular from that kind of GBA to GameCube era. This will not be another addition to the already busy end of year that Nintendo's having, but it's going to be coming out very early next year on January 20th. Look guys, I thought that was an incredible Direct. There are things that people were really hoping for that did not happen, and to be fair, we didn't really have any actual great evidence for thinking it would happen. It's all stuff that I would love to see someday. I hope we get some ports and remasters of more Zelda titles and Metroid stuff, but just dealing with the fact that we didn't get those, everything else we got this Direct was absolutely incredible. I mean, come on, GoldenEye is coming to Nintendo Switch Online. That is incredible. So those are just my thoughts on how that all went. Let me know down below in the comments. Did you guys enjoy the Direct? Was there stuff that you got hyped for? Were you really just hoping for those announcements that we didn't get, and nothing here that they showed really changed your mind? Let me know down below. As always, hit the like button to let me know if you enjoyed the video. If you didn't like it, hit dislike to let me know. It's good info to have. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you guys later. Possibly even later today, because Sony is doing a press conference as well, and I might try to cover that right away. So